Hello and welcome to Wake Up with the Economist at CES 2018. We're going to be interviewing lots of interesting people today, and the first one we're going to talk to is Kai Stepper of Bosch. He's a vice president there looking at assisted driving and automated driving. Kai, let me first start with a general question, and that is, it seems like data is transforming the automotive industry. What's new?
Absolutely, thank you Ken for this question. Absolutely, data is transforming the automotive industry in a couple different ways. Number one is the type of data that we're looking at. When in the past we were very much focused on test and validation data, both from bench testing as field testing as well. But now we have data about consumers, we have data that are in back-end servers. And so it's just the type of data that we're looking at. So the field of data analytics is changing rapidly, also the automotive world. Not just from a test and validation perspective like so far, but also now we have psychologists, we have anthropologists, etc., looking at different data sets. Number two is the sheer amount of data that we're transferring. Like in the past, our task was predominantly to connect boxes, connect systems with each other within the vehicle. Now we are connecting the vehicle to the rest of the world at all times.
When we take all of this data and we interact with it, where do you see the industry going? I see two different directions. One is to improve the driver, and the other one is to get rid of the driver. Is this dual track approach going to be the one that we'll take for a while?
Absolutely, Ken. So we have really parallel things happening at the exact same time. And I cannot emphasize this strong enough how exciting this is. I don't think in more than 100 years of automotive we have seen for the exact same goal, which at the end of the day make automated driving a reality, we take several paths at the exact same time that will also launch approximately at the same time. One is what we would call the evolutionary path, where we come from SAE level 0, 1 vehicles today, and we're progressing to level 3, 4, and 5. And you see a lot of emphasis on highway automation in that evolutionary path. Secondly, you have what we would call revolutionary path, where you jump right from SAE level 0 or 1 all the way to 4, especially for shared automated vehicles like in urban scenarios. Fascinating, and last but not least, in addition to that, you have a third path which talks about low-speed maneuvering and parking. That is going on at the exact same time as well.
To get all of the gains of applying data to automotive situations, to what degree is it important for the vehicle to communicate with other vehicles? Do we need sort of car-to-car mobility in order to get these gains?
So there is, again, more than one thing happening here. Number one is we really need the vehicle connected to back-end service at all times.
Sure.
That's important to update high-resolution maps, to update where the vehicle is at all times. But number two, as you mentioned, the vehicle communicating to each other. Let it be V2X, V2V communication. That will also be one of the puzzle pieces and fundamental puzzle piece to move this game forward.
I have to say, as a guy who's been watching the internet unfold for 2 decades, and the difficulty in getting as far as we got with the internet, which of course grew like rapeseed once you had a common protocol, it seems like we're still far away for vehicle-to-vehicle communications. Am I being too pessimistic, or do you see it more optimistically?
A lot of exciting things have been going on, a lot of pilot deployments on V2V here in the United States as well as other regions around the world. One specific example is in the city of Ann Arbor in Michigan, where there have been a safety pilot for many years going on. So we are still in development, and one of the fascinating pieces there is to decide what communication protocol is going to really move forward. Is it DSRC, so dedicated short-range communication? Is it 5G LTE moving forward? Sure. I don't think that answer is here yet. So what we as an industry are doing is, of course, we're exciting to have V2V, V2X as part of the equation, but we move forward with onboard sensing, even if V2X is not yet existing, so that we can really launch the end of this decade, beginning of next decade, these automated vehicles, with or without V2X.
Okay. And so public acceptance is so important. What does the industry need to do to ensure that the public has the sense of confidence and reliability in the systems?
That's a very important point, and a very important point especially to Bosch as well, to ensure that our customers, our consumers that we are wanting to provide exciting product to, are fully understanding of what the technology can bring in terms of opportunities, but also some of the limitations. So education is key. education through anything that is online, education through web-based, through social media, but also educate the point of sale. So when you go through a dealer and you buy this new technology, that it can be explained of what exactly is in the technology. So what are the limitations, what are not. One specific example I want to give you, Bosch has recently launched the Bosch Automated Mobility Academy. That is basically an online course about all the different levels of automated driving and what it does and also what it doesn't do.
That's interesting. So by telling the public what it doesn't do, you're setting the expectations in a reasonable way.
Absolutely, because there is a big difference when we talk about SAE level 2, 3, 4, and 5. So for us as engineers, that means something. For the consumer, that means absolutely nothing in terms of levels. So we need to break it down and make it understandable of, okay, when does the system engage, when is the system capable of operating the vehicle itself, and when not.
Have you thought about the fact that you have an entire cohort of companies that have all interacted with each other for 100 years and have interacted with regulators, are comfortable with that arrangement and have a sense of responsibility, and there's disruption happening from upstarts and technology companies that don't share that culture? What is the industry going to do about this? Because you might be responsible, but they might be like software developers and be willing to have crashes, so to speak.
Absolutely, and that's where the two worlds comes together. It's a really exciting time, Ken, from that perspective, because you have companies like Bosch who have been in this business for over 100 years and have a very strong background, not only in sensors and actuator systems, but also safety engineering when it comes to the automotive. But what is happening is this piece of bringing automated driving really to the market and to consumers is such a large piece that it's almost too big for one company alone. So what you see is a lot of partnerships. And over the last couple of years, last couple of months, we have seen a lot of partnerships engaging new technology companies with tier one suppliers, with automotive companies, so that we can really bring the best of both worlds together. Now that we have robotics, now that we have artificial intelligence joining this particular exciting field.
Okay, so I have to ask you this question. You've been saying the word artificial intelligence several times in our conversation. How is Bosch applying artificial intelligence in the automotive sector?
So what we are applying to, we formed an own center, Bosch Competence Center for Artificial Intelligence, to help us to solve specific problems that we have. Let's say you take a classification problem that you want to solve. You're recording a certain scene and you want to know, is this a traffic sign, is this a lane marking, is it a pedestrian, is it a vehicle? And what I've shown is that artificial intelligence approaches like convolutional neural networks, for example, can help us to bring better results with classification. So it's really a fine balance between already known approaches, existing approaches of bringing artificial intelligence in. So within the entire stack of the automated driving systems, artificial intelligence plays a very important role for specific tasks. Let it be on the perception side, let it be on the decision-making side and path planning side.
Now I can appreciate that you would want, the vehicle needs to know that situational awareness of what's happening on the road. If it's a self-driving car, do you need to know that as well, even if it's not self-driving?
It definitely can hurt, okay. Because what we want to also enable is driver for whatever reason can become disabled. You know, they may be fatigued, they may be sleepy, they are drowsy for whatever reason. So that we have systems in place who can take over. And for one specific example that Bosch is working on is what we call a minimum risk maneuver to bring the vehicle into a safe state in case the driver is no longer capable for whatever reason to operate the machine. And that's what really comes in if it's now, it doesn't have to be a level 4 or level 5 automated vehicle for that.
So I must ask the question, who owns this data? Presumably, if it's a Bosch component that is collecting the information, Bosch will own the data.
It depends on the arrangement, of course. I mean, first of all, we have to ensure that, you know, is there consumer-specific data that needs to be vetted, and if they're consumer-specific data, we need the authorization of the consumer to use this data or not. That is absolutely fundamental to Bosch, to protect privacy and protect consumer information. But then it's also a conversation between the different technology partners. Because as I mentioned earlier, moving forward, you will see not just one company doing it all, and moving forward, you will see several technology partners coming together and then talking about, you know, what part of the data is used by whom and for what purpose.
My final question to you is, Bosch is typically a hardware company. You make things. If it falls and falls on my foot, I say ouch. To what degree are you becoming an analytics company or a data company or a software company?
Yeah, we're already in the middle of this very much transition. And you're right, traditionally very much known for our hardware systems from an automotive perspective and non-automotive perspective. But what we're really focusing on is, in addition to sensors and actuator systems, software and services. So very big piece for us. So we are collecting data not just directly in from the field itself in vehicles, but for example also in manufacturing. So we are one of our own best customers internally from the sheer amount of manufacturing data we have to improve processes through data analytics approaches, for example.
That's great. Listen, thank you very much.
Thank you, Ken. Thanks for having me.
Great, thank you. We've been talking to Kai Steppers at Bosch about data in the automotive industry, and you're listening to Wake Up with the Economist. I'm Kenneth Cukier. Thank you very much.